Hello and welcome to Restoring Our American Republic. I'm Chuck Benoit with The Nature of Things, where we are realigning God, government, and natural law so that we might restore our American Republic. How many times do you find yourself going to meetings that are in themselves totally worthless? Leaders who disrespect your time with unnecessary jawboning instead of getting things done. It seems so much a waste of time and energy. So, what can we do about it? Well, we need, each of us, to determine what exactly we want to get done and then do it by yourself if necessary. And if you can find someone else who shares your goals, all the better, but do it. Meetings have to be with like-minded people to accomplish things. For instance, the Lake County REC under past management had a majority of members who were like-minded and got things done because of it. The new wave of members and leadership don't want to do anything, so the rift between the doers and the followers of inaction have little to do with one another. That doesn't mean that we leave the organization. It means that we have to get things done in other venues. We here at Restoring Our American Republic are looking for like-minded Republicans who would like to work on legislation, especially from your local legislators. We would also like to be a voice for those who have other interests that are conservative in nature and would like to be heard on the internet. So let us know who you are and what you'd like to be doing. And we would love to highlight you with what you're doing to make America great again. So with that, good morning, Mike Levine.
Good morning, Chuck. Yes, I was at the meeting that you were at last night, and it's so interesting that, again, without getting into this rabbit hole, which we could easily do, and we do have other things to do today, at our last meeting, we pointed out how leadership made the difference between getting a Republican city councilman elected in Claremont and losing to a Democrat. And of course, I pointed out to the REC, Republican Executive Committee, that leadership lost the election. In the previous election, when Todd Howard was running for a city council seat, the chairman of the party was Anthony Sabatini. And Anthony Sabatini valued getting Republicans elected to city council seats. So he reached out to Todd Howard early, made sure that Todd Howard's campaign was set up correctly, and then supported him with volunteer efforts through election day. And our current chairman, Taylor Yarkowski, did none of that until Todd Howard came crawling to him on his belly, begging for help, knowing that he was being defeated by the Democrat. And of course, the Republican Executive Committee in that situation gave too little too late. So last night we had a meeting, and our chairman, nor any other board member other than yourself, Chuck, bothered to come to the meeting. So Monica Wofford ran the meeting, who's not an officer. You were there. You should have run the meeting. You should have been called upon. And then if you really wanted to demonstrate leadership and you're the chairman of the party, you would have zoomed into the meeting and said hello to everybody and thanked everybody for coming out, but you're tied up in the legislature, so you can't make it today. But you know that the officer in charge, which last night should have been you, but it was run by Monica, who's very capable, don't get me wrong, but she's not an officer. So therefore, I would suggest not compliant with the county model constitution. So that's just another whole thing. It's just another indictment on the leadership of Chairman Taylor Yarkowski, who is not a leader, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah, well, I get it. But as you mentioned, we are here and we have other things on our agenda. We would like to look at Senate Bill 484 put out there by Senator Brian Avila. 484 is
Avila.
about
Avila, Chuck. You have to get it right.
Avila, I'm sorry.
Brian Avila.
Avila, there we go.
Yes, sir. There
And
you go.
And that actually is kind of uh, it's related to another bill that we'll be getting into, SB 1118. But we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves, right? Um, so this is all about these data centers, these huge data centers that are going to be requiring just uh, tons and tons of electricity and water. So I guess let's go. Let's just go ahead and get into it, Mike. And
Yes. Okay. Well, it's amazing, right? Because President Trump has announced on several occasions that Meta, the company that owns Facebook, where we are streaming right now, wants to put a data center in New York. And Trump is saying that the data center will be as large as the entire borough of Manhattan.
that's
Seriously,
insane. That's
that is
insane.
huge, right?
And
So I want to open this conversation by asking the question: is it beneficial to Floridians in any way to have data centers in the state of Florida? Okay, point number one. And my second point on this issue is that I agree with Senator Avila and whoever um, encouraged him to sponsor this legislation that Floridians definitely need to be protected from data centers consuming inordinate amounts of our electricity and water, which could cause shortages of electricity and water if they go unregulated. So I'm a supporter of SB 484 based on its content, Chuck.
Okay, well, a couple of things of programming note. Not only are we live on Facebook, but we're also live on YouTube today. We've finally figured out what I was doing wrong to make that, to keep that from happening. But there we are. We're on YouTube and Facebook live. So thank you all for watching. And then the other thing is, what confuses me also is the idea that we're actually considering these huge electric consuming entities into the state while promoting solar power. I mean, that's insane. That is absolutely insane.
Okay, Chuck. To avoid not getting the most pertinent messaging into this broadcast, um,
Stick to the notes.
stick to the nuts. Well, I'm just saying to you that our president tells us that these data centers should have the ability to produce their own electricity, Chuck.
Yeah,
And I'm
that
saying to you and Senator Avila that that needs to be built into this bill. They should be required to produce their own electricity and sell it to the grid if they produce more than they need, Chuck. Now,
that's
we can just walk through this bill
yeah,
line by
sure.
line,
There we
which
go.
is what we
Okay.
intended, which we will do today and Thursday. Thank you.
There you go. Yeah. So data center non-disclosure agreements right off the bat defines agency for the purpose of establishing accountability, defines data centers to establish the beneficiary of confidentiality, defines the type of structure that may be considered a data center and can be freestanding structures or a space within a larger space utilized for processing, storing, or transmitting digital information. Anything like to add to that, Mr. Levine?
Nope.
Okay.
That's
Well,
a
well
pretty, that's what the bill, the bill
uh,
is defining the terms that will be used in the bill. So no, we definitely do not want to discuss that. Okay. That'll
okay.
cloud every other issue we talk about today if we amend or uh, obfuscate that.
So the next
Continue.
thing is right off the bat. I guess this is a real issue. It prohibits agencies from entering into non-disclosure agreements concerning discussions about prospective data center placements to the public. Upon passage of SB 484, it renders non-disclosure agreements concerning data centers unenforceable and a violation of public trust, establishes a fine for $1,000 against a local government that enters into a non-disclosure agreement with a prospective data center applicant. Now, that sounds like good news to me.
Oh, I love it. Right. But so, I mean, just to get to the cut to the chase, right? Senator Avila sponsored SB 1118, which we're going to be covering on Thursday, which completely circumvents that. So these two bills cannot exist at the same time. One prohibits local governments and agencies from entering into non-disclosure and confidentiality agreements, where SB 1118 requires them to enter into non-disclosure and confidentiality agreements. So these two pieces of legislation, sponsored by the same
Same
senator,
person.
cannot coexist. Okay, that's a major deal. That's really the takeaway from today's discussion and what we're going to be talking about on Thursday, Chuck.
There we go. There we go. Establishes July 1, 26 as the effective date of the statute upon passage. Okay, so it establishes large load customer considerations. It establishes state of Florida concerns that data centers and other large load customers present unique planning and land development considerations such as infrastructure, compatibility, environmental impact, and efficient provision of public facilities and resources. I mean, that all seems to make sense.
It does make sense, but now my mind goes to the idea that these data centers are geographically huge. I mean, the number of square feet in a data center is huge. They're gobbling up Florida real estate, and they don't employ a lot of people. So what's the benefit to Floridians, Chuck? And I'm dying for someone who's watching this or hearing this or whatever to comment. Let's hear it. I want to hear from somebody who says these are the reasons why Florida should be enthusiastic about supporting data centers, because I can't come up with one single reason. Chuck, these digital centers can belong anywhere, and they drive data to a satellite that can be distributed anywhere. So why do we want them in Florida, Chuck?
Yeah, well, Mike, I haven't figured that out myself, and I'm still trying to wrap my mind around the tens of thousands of acres that for solar panels that they're pushing as well. I just don't get it. I know Florida's a big state, but
Right.
but we'll stick to the
last
notes.
night, last night, Monica Wofford and I were discussing the applicability of a non-officer running the meeting, and she kept telling me, well, what is the chairman going to do? And I said to her, well, he is the chairman, so it's for him to figure out, right? So now I'm going to apply the same rationale to data centers. Well, what are the data centers supposed to do? Well, it's their data center. They're the one that wants it. So they've got to comply with all the laws in the state of Florida. I would suggest they build their own power plant if they want it. And then they've got to figure out what are they going to do about water, which they're going to have to deal with state and local agencies to deal with their water thing. But you know what? That is not for us to solve that problem for them. Let them solve it. They're the ones who want it. I don't want it necessarily. I'm not opposed to it. I mean, if a landowner wants to sell his property to a developer who wants to build a data center, I'm not here to stand in their way, but we're not going to have brownouts in all of our communities, and we're not going to go turn on our faucet, take a shower, and no water come out because some guy wants to build a data center in your backyard, Chuck.
Yeah, I get it. So again, I think the safe thing to say is that so far this bill is a good bill, but we don't really want these data centers in the first place because they're going to be far more of an impediment on Floridians than they are of any benefit.
So we need the bill, Chuck. We need to protect Floridians from these, global data companies from coming in and putting these structures and then sucking up all of our energy and all of our water. So we have to protect the people of the state of Florida. But the way to do that, in my opinion, is just simply say, if you want to put a data center in Florida, you got to generate your own power. And you might go as far as to say your own water. And the only other thing I'd like to say about that, Chuck, is we in Florida allow Niagara to suck millions and millions of gallons of water out of the ground and sell it in bottles around the world. And we need to stop doing that too, Chuck.
Yeah, well, we shall see. Moving along on our
That's in
notes here.
Groveland, Florida, by the way. Groveland, Florida, right? Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So it also establishes the power and responsibility for comprehensive planning and land use responsibilities to local government as related to large load customers. So they are giving
Wow.
giving
Right?
the local government some
I can't
responsibility
wait to
here.
comment on that.
Yeah,
Let me
well,
have
go
it,
right
Chuck. Let
ahead.
me have it. Oh, so in every other case in the legislature over the last 4 years, let's just say, the government has stripped local authority, local government from their authority over development plans, but here they mandate it, right? So
Yeah, right.
amazing. I mean, what a hypocrisy we got going on here. Oh, you guys want to pass this legislation, right? But you don't want to handle the hot potato. So you're going to, in some cases, you strip local government of their authority over land use. But in this case, you mandate that they must be responsible for it. That way, state government doesn't have to. The Department of Commerce and the various water management districts, well, the water management districts will still be involved. So we won't pin that on them. But it is interesting, Chuck, I would call it hypocrisy of the legislature, being very willing to strip local government of authority in some cases, and of course, mandate local authority in others. Go ahead, Chuck.
Yeah. Well, I just want to, suggest that going through these bills can be pretty boring, but Mike, you really do kind of spice things up again a little bit there. I'm hoping that this genre helps people get a little bit into the idea of figuring out what these bills are about, because you definitely spice things up. So,
Chuck, if you don't, I'm not saying that I have major development experience or anything like that. You know what I mean? But I have done a lot of, I did stay at a Holiday Inn Express last night, But I'm just saying to you that all of these, every single line item in these bills have other consequences. You have to be a person who can follow the string. What are
yeah.
the, what is the effect of these laws on us? Why are we, and this is what conservatives need to say, limited government conservatives like us, why does the state of Florida have to be involved in this at all? Why does your local government have to be, number one, Jennifer Sullivan was a state representative from this district. I'm going to call it 26, even though it's been redistricted since Jennifer served. But the first question that our 21-year-old state rep asked on every piece of legislation is this appropriate for government to do at all? And that should always be our first step. Is this legislation proposed necessary? Do we need it? Why do we want another law on the books? Okay. So that's something we have to look at every time, and then just follow the string on the impact that this has. And of course, people who have no experience with it can't imagine what the impact would be. But for me personally, I spend a lot of time pondering and studying these things and trying to figure it out. And I do have a passion for it. So, uh, you know, I'm happy to share my thoughts. And of course, I know that a lot of people are going to completely reject what I have to say, but everybody has the right to choose, Chuck.
There we go. Well, our next topic is large load tariffs for public electric utilities, and establishes the responsibility of the state of Florida to create policy that provides safe, reliable electric services at fair, just, and reasonable rates as essential to the welfare of ratepayers, which again is a good thing. That's important. But the term tariff there, how does that play in?
Well, it's pretty interesting, right? We all hated tariffs, right? When President Trump started applying them at the federal level, right? And now all of a sudden, now that we're making billions and billions of dollars, we've stopped 8 wars, you know, utilizing tariffs and all that kind of stuff. Now the state of Florida, okay, just, which I applaud, right? Following our great president's lead, learns to utilize tariffs in order to manage the economy. I think it's a great thing. I mean, you can use tariffs and just absolutely make it so expensive to put a data center in Florida that you will get no data centers in Florida. And until somebody tells me why we would want data centers in Florida, I'll support that
Yeah,
until I
there
have
you
a
go.
reason not to, Chuck.
That's my point for sure. So now the next point is that it establishes that the state of Florida recognizes that when certain electric customers require disproportionately large electric loads at a single location, it imposes, again, disproportionate risk to other ratepayers, makes it necessary for the Public Service Commission to develop and enforce rate structures and other policies for such consumers to ensure disproportionate risk is mitigated to prevent shifting of costs to the general body of taxpayers. Again, sounds very, very reasonable and appropriate to me.
Chuck, it just goes to, I mean, I hope the state of Florida, which I'm sure will not pay attention, but this is the same as every other unfunded mandate, right? So again, you're going to build a data center, and that means you're going to have to build power supply. You're going to have to move water into these data centers. And oftentimes that public infrastructure is shifted over to the public. And this bill does address that in another line item we'll talk about later. But certainly, we want to protect the public from the cost. And these companies are the largest companies in the world that run these data centers. They should write the check for every single component of the development and operation of these data centers. And they might even put a little spiff bonus in it to reduce the cost of taxation on taxpayers in Florida for graciously allowing them to put their data center in our state, Chuck.
There you go. So I guess it defines a large load customer. It's one that consumes 50 megawatts or more average load over a 15-minute period at a single location. The Public Service Commission shall develop minimum tariff and service requirements for large load customers.
So again, I'm not I'm not a scientist, and I don't get into megawatts and gigawatts and all that jargon and everything, but I'm assuming 50 megawatts is a pretty good amount of electricity. So that's some heavy duty demand, within a 15-minute period. So I'm going to leave that alone, Chuck.
There you go. Okay. Minimum tariffs must ensure that the large load customer bears its own full cost of service and that the cost of service to large load customers is not shifted to general body of ratepayers. I think that's similar to what we've already said.
Check. Moving on.
Okay. So the cost addressed by tariffs include but are not limited to connection, incremental transmission, incremental generation, other infrastructure costs, operations and maintenance expenses, and any other costs required to service large load customers.
Check. Good to be in the bill. Thank you, Senator Avila, for protecting Floridians from the costs that were just enumerated by my partner in broadcasting, Chuck Benoit. Thank you, Chuck.
Yes. So again, what we're saying is that we're not we actually like this bill, but we're still not confident. What we need is data centers in Florida. Again, especially
But
when
we do need protection from data centers, Chuck.
we
So
do,
I'm going to
yes.
recommend that the legislature pass this bill unamended. Or,
Right.
well, no. Actually, I would like to amend the bill to require them to produce their own energy.
There you
So
go.
this bill can be improved, okay? But it's better than nothing.
There you go. Okay, so the Public Service Commission may employ rate-making tools such as contributions in aid of construction, demand charges, including minimum demand charges, incremental generation charges, financial guarantees, minimum load factors, take or pay provisions, and minimum period of service contract requirements. Can we turn that into English?
Basically, and I give them credit for consulting with people who understand the data center business and basically delineating some of the real costs. I'm sure that I think they did a pretty good job on it, but I'm not an expert. So, but I give them credit for taking a shot at it. And, they're, again, all of that is to specifically protect ratepayers and taxpayers from the financial impact of developing data centers in Florida. So I'm supporting that provision, Chuck.
Okay. So no policy or agreement may prohibit the curtailment of or curtailment or interruption of services if the curtailment or interruption is intended to provide stability of service across the electrical grid. Now, when I read that, what I think I'm hearing is that and possibly I should just ask you to stay it, but it seems to me that something can be prohibited, and that means the data center can be prohibited from
What I yeah, what I'm interpreting is that when the um, when the power creators, the utility companies who create energy, see that with all of the peak demand at certain time periods, that this is saying that that this law, if it were to be passed into law, would allow government to curtail the amount of energy provided to these large scale data centers to prevent brownouts and power shortages in other sectors of the grid, I'm going to say, because that really puts it what we're talking about, right? So
I think that's
basically,
what I
if
thought
the
it
power
said.
companies need to curtail the delivery of power to a data center in order to deliver in other commercial and residential uses, then the power company would have the right to do that. And this law protects that right, Chuck,
Yeah.
which
Now
I
that's
am
what I thought
grateful
it said,
for.
and that was I was hoping it was saying that, but again, uh,
I'm just so you know, I'm not a lawyer either, but whatever. I ate my Cheerios or whatever.
there we go. There we go. Well,
So anyway,
we're beginning to come to the end of our time, and we still have plenty to talk about with SB 44. But we're also, again, just to tease Thursday's broadcast, SB 1118, which is sponsored by the same senator, is kind of, I don't know, coming against 484. And obviously 1118 came after 484. So this is 1118 is going to be a change in perspective here. And I think our listeners and viewers really do need to take the time to check in with us on Thursday because it's not necessarily going to be a repeat of what's happening today. So, but on our final comment for today, the Public Service Commission may not provide services to a customer who qualifies as a large load customer if the prospective customer is a foreign entity. Again, sounds good to me.
smart.
There you go.
I agree with that. Right.
So,
Of course. Right.
so,
And of
so
course,
with
we have
that,
foreign entities all over the state of Florida, Chuck. People from around the world love buying real estate in Florida. They love owning stuff in Florida. So yeah, we have to hard line prohibit um, our agencies from providing permitting to foreign countries to absorb large scale amounts of our energy and water, Chuck. That's
there
for
we go.
sure. And I'm saying to you, Chuck, I'm just going to double down on that because I didn't like it when our local government allowed Niagara to start sucking our water out of the ground and selling it all over the world back in 2016 or so when I was running for a county commission seat, right? But of course, I guess that's why I'm not electable, Chuck, is because these big companies who want and look, I'm all for business. I'm a capitalist. I want everybody to make money and grow their businesses and all that kind of stuff, but not at the expense of delivering water into households, not at the expense of driving utility costs through the roof. I mean, somebody has to respect and protect the common man who doesn't read who doesn't like have a hobby of reading legislation into microphones, Chuck. you know.
There we go.
So
Well,
anyway, I think it's really important that we protect our citizens.
there we go. So that probably could serve as a final wrap-up comment, but we've got about 30
I do have
seconds. Why
one more
don't you?
thing I'd like to say before we go. That um, transparency is really critical, and this bill 484 opens up by providing transparency. On Thursday, we'll go the other way, and let's take a look at SB 1118 to see how that legislation handles transparency, Chuck. That would be my close. Thank you.
There we go. Well, thank you, Mr. Levine, and thank all of you for joining in with our twice weekly broadcast. Please like and share our program. And remember, if you're unwilling to govern yourself, you will be governed by tyrants. Until next time, God bless you. God bless President Donald J. Trump. And God bless America.